Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
Want to know the difference between being in charge versus being in control? Well, stay tuned and I'll tell you.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, the Worry-Free Retirement, with your host, nationally recognized retirement specialist and four-time author, Tony Walker.
Well, welcome, folks, to the Worry-Free Retirement. And yes, I am that little man in the sweater vest, control freak specialist and fiduciary, Tony Walker. And today, we're going to be talking about the final conclusion of the many C's to a worry-free retirement. Before we get into today's program, though, let me introduce to you America's favorite financial sidekick, broadcasting live in the studios at Louisville, Kentucky on November 17th, 2021. Mr. Aaron Orander. Good morning, Aaron.
Hey, good morning, Mr. Control Freak. How are you?
Have you ever been called a control freak?
I don't know if I've ever called my boss a freak, folks.
No, that's okay.
First.
Hey, this is you have permission. But have you ever been? No, seriously, have you ever been called a control freak?
Yes, many times. Many times. Good morning, Jessica, my wife. I love you. Yeah, she's called me a control freak many times.
Yeah, thankfully Susan never listens to this radio show. But my wife every once in a while says, Tony, you're a control freak, and I'll tell you when she usually does it. This is going somewhere, folks, and hopefully we'll have a good laugh out of this. And realize, I think ultimately you're going to find out over the next 28 minutes or so that in our own right, we are all somewhat control freaks or wish we could be one. So my weakness, I guess, of wanting to be a control freak, Aaron, is driving a car. Now, have you ever had the good pleasure of riding alongside me driving?
I've ridden in the car with you, I think, 2 or 3 times, but I remember the first time I drove with you, or rode with you. I didn't drive, you were driving.
Was it on the interstate or in town?
Well, I had come down to Bowling Green. See, I'm based in Louisville, folks, and I had come down to Bowling Green for a Christmas lunch that you were taking me and your other 3 employees. At the time, you only had 4 employees, so we could all cram in the Toyota Sequoia. And, let's see, I think we went about 3 miles down the road, and we got there in about 48 seconds. I was hanging on for dear life.
Oh, I'm sorry, I can't.
48 seconds, three or 4 miles, folks.
I'll have to tell you a quick story. So I went on a golfing trip with a buddy, and now this was a long drive. I decided to drive because, as you know, back then I had that big Sequoia, and he wanted to load up golf clubs, and he was playing instruments. He wanted to take his guitar, and some other guys were going to play guitar while they're. So I had this thing packed. So it was he and I in the car. He had never ridden with me, and we took off for our 200-mile journey down to Alabama somewhere on one of the golf courses down there. But anyway, so I drove. He never said a word. I drove on the highway most of the way, drove all the way back. We pull in the neighborhood. We live in the neighborhood together. I kid you not, I look over and I said, Mike, how's my driving? He said, real seriously, I'll never ride with you again. And he hasn't. He's never. If we've gone on a golf trip, he drives. Well, now the last time he did ride with me and another fellow, but he sat in the back seat, and I'd noticed. I'd look in the rearview mirror. He was not watching the road. I don't think he wanted to ride. It was just like, okay, Tony, I pray and hope you can get me there. But folks, what is this whole thing about driving and riding and control and being in charge? Well, if you've tuned into the last couple of episodes, by the way, Aaron, in case people missed the last few episodes of the Worry-Free Retirement, tell them how they can listen to those again.
Sure thing, folks. All you got to do if you want to listen to past radio shows of the Worry-Free Retirement, all you got to do is get online and go to soundcloud.com. That's soundcloud.com. And when you get there, right at the very top of the page, there's a search bar. Just type in there the Worry-Free Retirement. Click the search button, and bam, there you go. You're going to see our awesome bobblehead. Click on that, and you're going to find all past radio shows.
All right. Thank you, Aaron. So what we've been covering the last few weeks is what we call the many C's to a worry-free retirement. And we're at our final 2 C's today that we're going to be covering. And I can assure you, folks, listen closely. I think this is going to resonate with what is going on right now as we record this show in November of 2021. And that is this. I have never seen in my 37 years in the financial world, I've been doing this a long time, folks, and I meet with a lot of people in person, a lot of people. I've never seen people so anxious, and here's the key word, I think, and so uncertain about our financial future in this country. Now, again, we're not going to make this political. It has nothing to do with that. I'm just telling you about what I see going on out there. And here's where I think the problem is, folks. The key word here is control. I think most of you feel like you are out of control. Probably, in a way, that's why I brought up the driving and riding versus driving. In a small way, it's probably the way you felt a little bit when I got to our destination, which normally took 5 minutes for most people in 48 seconds. You probably had a little bit of a feeling, didn't you, Aaron, of, hey, I'm out of control here. This guy's behind the wheel. Would you agree? It was a control issue.
I just wondered. I was like, man, did I tell Jessica I loved her this morning before I left? Did I kiss my son and tell him that I loved him before I got in the car with Tony? No, I'm just kidding. Yeah.
So we have to understand, folks, that the whole point of today's show is to help you understand. Here is a fact. Okay, forget whether you want to be in control or you're out of control or you want to be a control freak. When we are in control, I can assure you, control of the situation at hand, whether it's driving, money, work, I don't care what it is, kids, we are more confident in the future. So is this making sense, Aaron? Would you agree with that? If you feel like you're in more control, let's say you're driving. Let's say you had magically switched places with me and you slowed the car down, you felt a little bit about, you would probably been at that point immediately more confident that we were going to get safely to the next destination, correct?
Probably.
Okay, so nothing wrong with that. So that gets back to our point. Right now, with all of this uncertainty in our country, let's name off a few things that I hear from savers that they are very much feeling out of control over. Number one, let's just talk about the nation's debt. You watch the news, don't you, occasionally?
Oh, yeah.
I don't watch as much as I used to, but do you understand they just passed another 1.2 trillion or something.
Right.
So, folks, that's going to push us over for the first time in history. This is a crazy number. Over $30 trillion, that's with a T, not a B, $30 trillion in debt. Now, I don't know about you folks, but we can barely pay the interest on that debt as a country. In fact, that's to me why they're keeping interest rates so low. We have got ourselves in such a pickle. If the Fed raises interest rates too high, listen closely, folks, this is not rocket science. If you just think through what's going on $30 trillion in debt, if that interest rate, let's say, goes up to 1980s levels of 7 or 8%, well, we couldn't afford it. Literally overnight, we would be bankrupt because we couldn't even afford the interest on the debt we owe. So this is a huge problem, and one that I think allows people to think, wait a minute, I'm totally out of control, and then it leads to the next point. Tony, where can I invest my money? Here's the key point if you're a saver. On a safer basis, again, savers don't like taking a lot of risk, and still earn a decent rate of return. Can you go to the bank and get that? Now, safety's there, but what can you not get at the bank, Aaron, right now?
Yeah, you can't get that right now.
You can't get any interest.
Right.
So, the old deal was granddad and grandma went to the bank and got their 6 or 7% CDs, and, the principal was protected. They were happy as a lark. And while the bank, in my opinion, they're still fairly safe. I don't sit around and fume over the bank and what's going to happen to the money in the bank. What the problem is, you don't have any interest earned on your money. So with inflation, while the bank sits there holding on to your money, you're losing money, basically. The third thing people feel out of control of is the stock market. Now, again, this is how volatile I think things are. So I'm going to say the date again. As we record the show on November 17th, 2021, the market is at an all-time high. This stock market has gone gangbusters. It's like being at the casino and the chips are stacking up. So, Aaron, let's assume you're kind of conservative by nature. You don't take a lot of risk. You're at the casino, and it's your lucky day. The chips are stacked up. At some point, do you keep playing, or what do you do maybe in that point? If you've been there long enough at the table.
I mean, I would have a goal, but after a while, I think I would probably be like, you know what, I'm done. I'm not taking any more risk.
There you go. Or less risk. Take some winnings off the table.
Maybe, yeah.
So many of you folks, I know you're gleefully looking at these 401k statements, and congratulations. And we've got clients with our Schwab platform who are making a lot of money. But I remind you, just think back to 2008, that money could be gone in a heartbeat. Folks, there is no guarantees surrounding that money that you're looking at, assuming it's in the stock market. So that's a concern, is out of control because of the stock market. And then finally, the last thing most people feel out of control of, and again, we just saw this, Congress is passing some huge tax increases. Now focus just on the wealthy folks. Don't worry, you're exempt from this. And if you believe that, I've got some wonderful swampland in Florida to show you. But anyway, it's taxes and the lack of control over this idea or this notion that taxes can, and in my estimation, have to go up in the future. So if you're feeling out of control, when I come back, we're going to talk about how to put you in charge, and by being in charge, you'll feel more control and more confidence in your future. I'm Tony Walker, fiduciary and owner of Tony Walker Financial. You're listening to The Worry-Free Retirement. We'll be right back. With the stock market at all-time highs, our nation's debt through the roof, and inflation racing out of control, now may be the best time to consider safeguarding your money. That's why I'm offering to review your 401k and other retirement accounts to be sure that you aren't taking too much risk and you're not going to run out of money. To set up your free meeting with me, simply log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and let's get started.
Tired of the roller coaster ride of the stock market? Let Tony Walker show you how to smooth out the ride with your money. Log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and let's get started.
Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement. We're talking about this notion of how to be in charge versus being in control. So let's use an example of in charge. So you know my sleep habits, Aaron. You've heard the crazy stories of when I get up in strange times.
Yeah, I've stood over you and watched you sleep many times. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Yeah, I've heard you talk about. I've gotten emails from you at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, is this man up? Actually, I don't think that anymore. After working for you for 8.5 years now, I'm like, yeah, he's up.
Yeah, like this morning. So as we record the show, we had a TV show we've got a plan for. In fact, Louisville's most laid-back graphics artist and our newest member of the production team, Mary Beth Combs, of course, Derek Hudson on the graphics, they're working on the show right now. Well, that show has to be worked on, and stuff gets on my mind. Here's me, Aaron. I think it's just stuff gets on my mind, and I have to get it done. And yeah, I'm kind of a perfectionist, so I thought we worked on the show yesterday. Remember, we talked about it. Well, guess what? I'm doing at 2 in the morning this morning.
Making adjustments,
redoing
changes.
Part of the show, tweaking it, trying to make it even better. So I have this deal. It's a habit, if you will. The same Mike that's a good friend of mine is also a sleep doctor, and he's telling me, Tony, you got to get a handle on this sleep, but I can't help it. I wake up usually, Aaron, most mornings around 12:30 or 1. I'm wide awake, and then generally later on I can go back to sleep at 4. So I had this epiphany about a year ago. All right, so I woke up at 12:30. I had to be at Louisville the next day. I was in Bowling Green, right? So I'm going to have to drive to Louisville, which is roughly 2 hours. Not quite, but about 2 hours. Of course, I'm not one to drive in traffic. There you go, getting to be a control freak. This is going somewhere, folks. Remember, I'm a numbers guy. So if I go ahead and sleep normal hours and get up at 6, let's say, then drive to Louisville. When I hit Louisville, or even on the highway the whole way, what am I going to be involved in?
Yeah,
a lot of
traffic.
A lot of traffic. I mean, a lot of traffic. Now, one day, my wife thinks I'm nuts because I'll do this to this day. One day I woke up at 12:30 in the morning, wide awake, and I thought, wait a minute, why don't I just go jump in the car and drive to Louisville? So I did it, right? Oh, it was like heaven on earth. You know how many cars and trucks are on the road at 12:30 or 1 in the morning on the highway? Not many.
Not many.
Not many. And here's the way I figured, Aaron. Call me crazy, but I thought, no, wait a minute. If I'm trying to get to Louisville on a safe basis, I'm wide awake. I'm not going to fall asleep, so that's an issue I don't have to worry about. But if there's only 1/20th of the number of cars on the highway, then my thoughts are, I think I got a better chance of getting home safely to Louisville. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm trying to do here is I'm in charge of the decision of when I decide to drive to Louisville. That put me in charge. Now, one might argue, yeah, but Tony, you're not fully in control, and I would agree with that. Something could still happen at 1 in the morning. I'm not denying that. But my point is I'm in a better control of my environment, an environment I normally can't control when there's 5,000 cars on the road versus 50. You see where I'm going with this?
Right, and it's an environment that you've chosen to put yourself
Bingo.
in. Okay.
So here's the point, folks. Many of you are choosing, listen, you're choosing to get up at 7 a.m. and drive into Wall Street in all of this heavy-duty traffic and increased risk. And what I'm saying is, you don't have to do that. You can drive at a different time of day. We call it the worry-free retirement. And what we're trying to do here is put more controls around your money by putting you in charge. Well, how might we do that? There's a lot of ways we do that. Number one, we like to invest more of your money on a safe basis. Again, if you're a saver, met with a gentleman yesterday, Aaron, nice fellow. We started talking and he kept talking about the stock market and this. And I finally said, sir, I don't think you're a saver. And he goes, what do you mean? I said, I think you're an investor. And there's nothing wrong with that, sir, but we work with savers. I mean, his personality and mine were not going to get along because he wanted us to actively manage this portfolio and time the market. That's not what we do. So we had a nice conversation, but he needs to be working with a stockbroker or somebody that's out there market timing, not what we do. So you got to be safe. Now, if you are going to take a little bit of risk, we have that covered too. It's called our Riskalyze system, where we can rank different portfolios that we manage. We have 5 of those, and we do it for a very modest fee, about half of what most money managers charge. Currently, our fees to manage your money, 0.8%. So back to numbers, let me do the math for you. So if we're managing your money, let's say you give us $200,000 to handle, that's $1,600 a year for everything. That's picking the funds, that's allocating everything, that's rebalancing, that's getting you money when you need it, that's providing free financial advice on top of that. Heck of a deal. Again, and you get Tony Walker thrown in the mix for free. I think that's a pretty good deal. So that's the second thing. The third thing you can do is have a written game plan. Most of you feel out of control because you've bought products with no game plan, and thus you have no idea what you're even doing with these products, nor how best to use and enjoy them, which is sad. We provide a written game plan proprietary to Tony Walker Financial. It's unlike any other software out there. I should know I created it. It is built and designed for savers, and it is as Shannon Ross in our office likes to say, a humdinger. It's awesome. So, not only that, you've got one more thing I got to mention, which will lead into something we want to share with you in just a second. Not only myself, who is a fiduciary, owner of the company that you can meet with in person, but you also have 3 salaried fiduciaries to back me up. We have Heather Hughes in our Bowling Green office, been with me over 15 years. She is really, really sharp and there to help you anytime you have questions. We have my favorite son-in-law, Trey Juergens, who's in the Louisville office, doing a great job and just does a great job in meeting with people and explaining things. And the newest fiduciary, salaried fiduciary, is my favorite nephew out of our Lexington office, Wes Walker, who, by the way, is doing an awesome job and really good at kind of diving in and helping us select things for our portfolios. So with that said, what I thought we would do, Aaron, right now, we're going to go live to a Zoom call with our own Heather Hughes. And what I want Heather to do is share with our audience firsthand why she feels so many of our clients feel so much more in control than they did before working with Tony Walker Financial, and also the confidence we bring to the table with not only our process, but our wonderful staff to help us. Well, good morning, Heather.
Good morning, Tony. How are you today?
I'm doing very well, and thank you so much for being with us. And as we talked, our theme is how to get more confidence in your future by being in more control. And what I wanted you to do is speak briefly to 2 issues that we have come up. First of all, a lot of times after I spend time with a client during that second meeting where I provide their assessment, in many cases you'll follow back up with them. So speak to, I guess, first of all, how appreciative they are that we follow up, but any confidence they might be sharing with you about our process as they learn more about what we do at Tony Walker Financial.
Oh, absolutely. So typically I follow up within 1 to 2 weeks of them meeting with you, just to check in to see if they have any questions over the plan you presented. But some of the feedback that I always get is that, one, they've never really seen a game plan laid out for them for retirement. And so that's always new, and they appreciate all the effort and work we've put in prior to that. And then 2, that the fact that they're no longer a number. So we're checking into them to see their, how they're doing. If they have any personal questions on all of that, they need further explanation, I'm there to, hopefully alleviate some fears or any kind of questions that they may have.
Oh, you're so helpful in that regard. Thank you so much. And then secondly, let's imagine somebody decides to join the ranks with Tony Walker and Financial and become a client, and 3 years goes by and we're servicing their accounts and everything, but then all of a sudden something changes. Maybe there's something that happens in their retirement nobody could plan for, and then hopefully the confidence they feel when they call us, knowing we can call up that game plan and jump into action.
Absolutely. So, one thing's for sure is life changes. So with our proprietary software, we're allowed to make those changes, tweak their plan as things come up. So it may be they retire sooner than anticipated, they get an inheritance. You never know. So, we're allowed in that software to make the changes to accompany whatever they're going through with life right now.
And we talk about this a lot. Can you imagine if we didn't have that proprietary software? I know when you started years ago with me, you had to do those long spreadsheets. But speak to also the fact that people, at least the feedback I get, and I know you get it too, but just how easy it is for them to finally understand what it is they have and then how they're going to use and enjoy this money.
Oh, sure. So, they finally have something on a one page that's like lists all of their assets, when to start accessing funds from which account, and it all makes sense to them. And then they can kind of see the end result too. That's one thing that we always strive for with retirement planning. We don't want them to run out of money. And so this is a way for them to see that we can actually accomplish that goal for them.
Well, speaking of confidence, Heather, it allows me, I see a lot of people each week. I think as we record this show in mid-November 2021, I think I got 40 appointments this week or something. But believe me, it helps me so much to know that we have the people like yourself and Trey and Wes and all the staff that can be there for them. So first of all, I just appreciate you so much being there for our clients and all of the service work that you oversee there in the Bowling Green office. So thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Well, have a good day.
Thanks. You too. Take care.
Will do. All right, folks, look, we're going to take a quick break. When I return, I am going to share with you one of the most interesting Tony in the Trenches questions I've had in a long time. And one, if you're thinking about buying an annuity or recently have been pitched an annuity with these exorbitant interest rates or bonuses, you're going to want to stay tuned for this segment. Good stuff coming your way. I'm Tony Walker. You're listening to the Worry-Free Retirement.
Are you retired or retiring soon? Do you have a 401k, IRA, thrift savings account, 403b, or lump sum pension that you'd like to move to safer territory? Did you know that all the money you see on your 401k statement isn't really yours? Depending on your overall taxable income, the government has essentially a lien on your 401k that can tax as much as 40% of your money when you go to take it out. Tony Walker calls this the 401k tax tumor. For over 33 years, retirement specialist Tony Walker has helped thousands of savers worry less about money by creating game plans to deal with your tax tumor. Get control of your retirement by controlling the taxes owed on it. Schedule a free meeting to see if you can reduce your tax tumor and provide a guaranteed income you can never outlive. To get started, simply log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
Welcome back, folks, to the Worry-Free Retirement. I am America's favorite financial sidekick, Aaron Ornder, and I've got today's Tony in the Trenches for you. Tony, let me read it to you. This comes from Steve in Louisville. It says, Tony, on one of your past episodes, you talked about one way to beat inflation is by spending both your principal and the interest. You quoted an annuity paying a guaranteed rate of 5%. How can an annuity guarantee that high of a return?
All right, Steve, this is a good question. I remember covering this on a show. So as best I can in our remaining time, first of all, let me tell you what an insurance company does. So annuities are only secured. You can only purchase an annuity through a licensed agent, which we are at Tony Walker Financial. And those annuities are actually what let's just call manufactured by insurance companies. Now, you might say, I had a gentleman that came in the other day, Aaron, that was working with his 401k, and they moved some money in an annuity. And he goes, well, no, this company's a brokerage company. They wrote the annuity. And I said, no, they may have secured the annuity, but they had to go to an insurance company to get it. So remember, annuities are issued by insurance companies. They are not, let me repeat, they are really not investments, they are contracts. And what the contract does is it tells you what the insurance company is willing to do with your money. Is that kind of making sense, Aaron?
Okay.
So in this example, let's go back to Steve's example. And this was the one I used on the whiteboard during the television show. In fact, Aaron, a lot of people may not be aware of the television show or may not receive it. We're on 7 different TV stations throughout Kentucky. But tell people how they can go to our YouTube channel and watch past episodes.
Sure, no problem. Just like Tony said, folks, all you got to do is go to youtube.com. That's youtube.com. And when you get there, in the search bar, just type Tony Walker Financial. Click search, and you'll see Tony's smiling face. Just click on that. Not only are you going to find past episodes, you're going to find all types of video content from us. You can find workshops, you can find all kinds of past video content on there.
Yeah, and there is a plethora on there. I know a gentleman was in the other day, and he goes, "Where can I learn more about what you do?" And I said, "Sir, if you really want to know the answer to that question,
go to the YouTube channel.
Go to the YouTube channel." Yeah. We even had years ago, I know we covered the idea of a website developer trying to help us, and the website developer said, "My gosh, the problem is most people come to us with no content. You've got so much, I don't even know where to start." So folks, I've put my life's work into doing all these episodes and content so you can understand, number one, what a saver it should be doing, how to control your money, how to control the environment your money's flying in, but more importantly, what you need to know about the advisor, and that would be us, Tony Walker Financial, and what we do. Incidentally, before I share this example, if you're going to buy an annuity, please, especially if you're putting your life savings into an annuity, make sure and confirm the person selling the annuity is a fiduciary. Folks, if they don't give you Form ADV Part 2, ask for it. If they don't give it to you, they are not a fiduciary. They have to give you that form. Okay, about out of time here. So what the example is from Steve. So last week, or the week before, I shared an example of a $300,000 401k. All right, and in this example, just to keep it simple, the $300,000 was given to an insurance company. They issued the annuity. And then the annuity had what's called a payout rate of 5% guaranteed. So folks, a lot of times people say, well, wait a minute, I can earn 5% on my money. Well, yeah, that's true, but you're going to have to spend your principal to equal the 5. So let me explain. Right now, if you give money to an insurance company in what we call an interest annuity, the highest out there is probably in the 2.5% range from a well-rated company. That's it. So they can only pay you 2%, 2.5% on a yield. They're not going to be able to pay you 5% on a yield. That's called a payout rate. But here's what's so unusual that an insurance company can do that Wall Street or the banks cannot. So in this case, we take $300,000. The payout rate is 5%. So that means for the rest of Steve's life, let's say he purchases this annuity, the insurance company is going to pay he and his wife $15,000 a year, guaranteed. Let me repeat that. Guaranteed for as long as they live. So let's say Steve dies in the 15th year, let's say he buys it at age 65 and he's 80, but his wife is still alive. Doesn't matter. Even if the principal, the original $300,000 has been exhausted, she is still going to get that $15,000 for the rest of her life. So it kind of goes back to what the late great John Bogle once said, and he feared that with interest rates going so low that, as we're coming into a new age, people are going to have to start spending principal. Well, the problem is if you go to Wall Street and spend all your principal, one day, if you don't earn enough money, you're going to go broke. That bucket is going to run dry. Not so with an annuity. When you start that mailbox money, no matter how long you live, contractually speaking, they have to pay you the income. So how do they do that? Well, you got to look to the science, actuaries, low yields, good conservative practices, the law of large numbers, all these things that we as advisors understand. So if you're sitting there right now and you're saying, Tony, I didn't realize I could get this kind of mailbox money for the rest of my life guaranteed and try to keep up with inflation, then we need to talk. And here's all you got to do. Just log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Click on that Let's Get Started, or feel free to give us a call toll free at 877-499-9255. That's 877-499-WALK. And yes, I'll be happy to talk with you in person about your situation. Well, that's all the time we have for today. I look forward to talking to you next week on the Worry-Free Retirement. But you remember, between now and then, if all else fails, you be worry-free.